when you first broke through, you hadn't had a history in the show business. You were still in your 20s, and it was very much, a modelling a career on page 3 of something that doesn't exist anymore. So I have 2 questions for it, which I'll keep separate because they're 2 contrasting questions, I suppose. But what's your feeling about that now? What's the feeling about page 3 as an idea? And do you look back and see it differently from how it felt at the time?
So what is my feeling on page 3 now? I mean, I suppose I have to give you the context, and so from my standpoint, again, I'm not looking to be a model, or, I wasn't looking for kind of success in that way or anything. It was literally, would you like to do this? Could you do this for us? And, and because of my nature, I was like, oh, why not? Okay. And so I didn't have any kind of view on it, really. I just thought, why not? And I guess, so whilst I was doing it, I was just like, well, I can't see myself doing this for very long, because I got bored really, really quickly. And I thought, so I think I only ended up doing literally like a handful of photo shoots, possibly only 3 with Sun. It wasn't many at all. And then kind of started being offered TV work and went in that direction. So at the time, my view on it was, well, this is an opportunity. I'll just see what it's like. I don't have to do it if I don't like it. If I do like it, I'll carry on. And that was it. I didn't have any more attached to it. How I see it now is it's very different, and it's one of the, when people are talking about wanting to become famous or to have success, and and have asked me, would I recommend that route in? I'd say absolutely not. If you know what you want to do, for example, it might be a TV presenter or whatever, don't take that route, because I'd say it's slowly changing. But at that time, 27 years ago, we're talking pre-internet, there's no social media, there's no internet. We're kind of conditioned by what we read in newspapers and magazines and see on television, here on radio. That's it. That's where we sort of form opinions and, form that kind of collective understanding. And at that time, it was very much people belong in one box. So if you're this, you stay in that box. They don't like to see you in any other way. It was like the capacity wasn't there to understand that human beings are multi-dimensional beings with so capable of so much, rather than just you are this. So that's how I think things have changed. With social media now, we've got the capacity to expand our own minds and go, of course, everybody is capable of a lot of different things. You don't have to just do your stage show. You can also be a podcaster. You might want to create products. You can do whatever you like if you've got the imagination, will, desire and drive to do it, and the love to do it. And so I think I don't know if I've answered your question.
I'll tell you why I'm asking, and you have answered it completely, but the reason I was asking is, these 2 separate things I'm about to say will join together. But I know my auntie struggled with it until she probably did Strictly, where in most people's minds, certainly TV people's minds, I think she was someone that gets put in and out of boxes, and that was
typecast.
And very much sort of like the psychic rather than anyone with a brain. And Debbie's. I speak to Debbie about strategy of stuff all the time, and then Strictly kind of opened that for her, I think. And so I really recognise what you're saying, and which leads me on to Mrs. Merton, which is why I was asking the question, because I watched the Mrs. Merton interview that you did when you were probably 27, I would assume. 27. And it's all very much... And
I was the butt of the joke.
Yeah, I don't even know if you're necessarily the butt of the joke, but it was very much objectifying. It was that, and it's someone who's an introvert naturally becoming. I don't know, it was just, and I don't want to play it, but it was very much sort of like an objective, over-sexualized conversation.
Completely. And funnily, it's so weird you should mention that, because I, had never ever watched anything I'd ever done on television, and bearing in mind I'd done a lot, interviews, TV shows, whatever, but I would never watch anything. And then it was only very recently, like in the past few years, that my kids, because my kids were like, "Mum, why do people ask you for your order?" They wanted to see something, and I went, "Oh, let's just have a look," because I didn't have anything either. I didn't keep it, and I think I found that interview on YouTube, and I sat with them and we watched it, and I thought, I was just going to laugh and reminisce and kind of remember that occasion. And actually, to be really, really truthful, what I ended up feeling was really, really sad, because what I connected with was my 27-year-old self, who kind of had no idea like what was going on, what had happened to me, but felt truthfully, and I wouldn't have told anybody back then, but I can now because it's so long ago, and and I've obviously changed and grown up a lot, but I actually felt really quite vulnerable in that position, because I did feel like I was, I did feel sort of the butt of everybody's joke. And I think even in the audience, and I remember there was one lady, and she, looked like, she's a lady probably the same age as me now, in her 50s. And she was the only one that was sort of kind of kind, and she wouldn't join in on the bandwagon of like the subtle undercurrent of a dig. And that's not to say, because Caroline Hearn was wonderful to me after that, and actually, she was wanted to work with me and was writing stuff, and and obviously, that wasn't able to happen. But so it wasn't out of cruelty. It was that's just how we are as a society. That's how, that was my role. In like Shooting Stars, getting placed in the, or I did, what was it? Oh gosh, this is really going back. I can't even think of it now. It was Terry Wogan used to host it with the long wand, and you'd have the panel. Blankety blank. So there was always the bimbo seat, and that, I mean, now we're, thankfully we've like developed a little bit more, but that was my position that I'd been placed in. So I'd been cast into the bimbo seat, but I didn't know it, or didn't know how to handle it.
You must have come off, because I watched it, and I was, to finish my sentence, you must have come off and felt not at peace because of it. I did. No, I felt, and as someone watching it who, I'm not much older than you were then, but enough, you feel protective, because you feel like they are all in a position of power. I can't remember who the other guest was, and I won't name him. Oh yeah, God.
He was very overtly sexual, to the point where I was deeply uncomfortable, and I think I kept looking at Caroline for help. I mean, I wouldn't be like that now. I'd stand up for myself, but back then, I didn't know what to do, and I just thought the only thing I could do, which was my defence at the time, was just to sort of laugh at myself.
You handled it really well.
Loudest, yeah.
But do you look back at it and feel almost protective over your younger self, I suppose?
I feel really protective over my younger self. That's exactly how I felt when I watched it. I was like, oh my God, I could see my naivety. I could see just how naive I was. But, how would I have ever been prepared for something like that? It was so out of the blue and unexpected. And I did feel really protective of that part of me. And I thought, if I could go back, I'd probably wouldn't let her do it. or I'd have a few kind of better answers prepared. Yeah. But, I also don't regret it. And I think that's really important to say as well. I absolutely don't regret it, because it was a steep learning curve for me, you know, in that kind of intensity, in the sort of public eye. I was also behind the scenes that people didn't know about, having huge kind of family issues around it as well. Really, really hugely kind of destructive stuff going on. And so it was all kind of, as I would put it now, a kind of alchemical cooking pot that kind of really forced and helped me to grow, learn, develop, and get into therapy.
Yeah.